Last week, last Sunday, our discussion here was something that really got into people's minds, and everybody was very, I would say, aroused to the idea that you can read something on paper, you can hear it, but if you don't really feel it, internalize it, it doesn't affect you so much. But last week I saw that people here were all affected.
So I wasn't here, unfortunately.
Well, we're going to review it. We're going to review it.
Yeah.
We're going to review it. This is very difficult because it goes against the way we live. But it said here, number 150, it said there on where the check is, Tzadi Vav, Kasher Matkil Ha'adam Nitpalel, when a person begins to pray, Miyad Kisha Omer, this is the introduction to the Davening, to Shmona Esrei, Kisha Omer Adonai Sevasai Tiftach, and he finishes the pasuk, and you finish the pasuk, Ufi Hagiti Lasecha. Look at this opening statement. This is what got everybody sort of upset last week, or Hashchina mislabeshes umedaberes hadiburim. Now, this is a very difficult concept. Why difficult? Because we always think of ourselves as me, myself, and I am who I am, and I know that I am standing here and I'm praying to God. So you maintain some kind of identity of yourself. Baal Shem Tov is telling you a chiddush here. He's telling you that you're not speaking, even though you have the free will to speak, to stop speaking, to pronounce the letters, the words. Baal Shem Tov tells us, and you can rely on the authority of the Baal Shem Tov. You could say, so he said, who says he's right? You can rely on the authority of the Baal Shem Tov. He says that he is telling you that you are not speaking. You are not speaking. When you invite Hashem to help you speak, Svasai Tivtoch, Adonai Svasai Tivtoch, Hashem takes your invitation. Doesn't ignore your invitation and says, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'm busy. I have another affair. He doesn't say that. When you invite Hashem to help you speak, open up your lips, He goes into you and He is the one who does the speaking. Hashchina mislabeshes umedaberes hadiburim. The one who is speaking is not you. It's the Shekhinah speaking. And there's something very, very deep and very important that we have to get to from understanding it. But first, let's understand what that means again. That took us a long time last Sunday to discuss. What do you mean I'm not speaking? The Shekhinah is speaking. What does that mean? The Shekhinah is speaking. We understand this concept of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is God's presence, let's call that. Comes from the word shochen. Shochen is a neighbor, someone who lives around us, is a shochen. But that's all. So what does it mean? Someone who's here, someone who exists in the surroundings of where we are, that's a shochen. But the Shochen and the Shekhinah are the same letters. So this total existence of the Shekhinah, which exists in the entire world, now becomes more organized and let's say mitzumtzam, more condensed, and it becomes now internalized into you, and not that it wasn't here before, but now it becomes more operative inside you.
Where?
Inside you. Inside you. The Shekhinah, which exists even before you invite the Shekhinah, before you say, Hashem is Masai Tiftach, the Shekhinah is here. But I am inviting the Shekhinah to become part of me operationally. I want him to help me speak. And he is the one actually who does the speaking. I'm just going along for the ride. That's what he's telling us, the Baal Shem Tov. Hashchina midaberes hadiburim. Everything that happens in the world is because the Shekhinah is energizing it to happen.
Like when the Lord speaks.
B'vadai. This phrase in the Chazal usually refers to Moshe Rabbeinu. They said, Hashchina medaberes b'toch grono. Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to Am Yisrael. No, it wasn't him speaking. He's only the tzinor. That's all. He's the channel. It was Hashem speaking to Klal Yisrael, but he sent a shliach in the form of a human being, and the sound comes out of his mouth. But who's talking? Was it Moshe Rabbeinu talking? No, not at all. It was the Shekhinah talking through him. The Shekhinah talking through him. Says the Baal Shem Tov, Moshe Rabbeinu did not have a monopoly on that.
Moshe Rabbeinu
did not have a monopoly on that. We experience in a small way the exact same experience every single day, 3 times a day.
So when we say Shema Kolenu, and it is God speaking to us, and we add
not God speaking to us.
He's speaking.
He's speaking.
So if he's speaking and we ask whatever we ask, it's him speaking.
So who are we asking to, right? He's the one who's speaking, right? It's a very good question. The answer is, you have to understand one thing. We're using a lot of terms, and people take them for granted, and they don't really identify precisely what the terms are. We say Shekhinah, Hashem, all these words, synonyms. There's no such things. In Lashon HaKodesh, everything is precise. Every word, every letter has an exact meaning. Sometimes the differences are very, very mild, very hairline difference. But there's a difference. Now, when I say the word Shekhinah, I have to realize that the Shekhinah itself, first of all, is not just one thing. The Shekhinah itself has various levels to it. In the spiritual world, there are always levels. We know that in general, we have this concept of 10 sfirot. 10 sfirot. The highest one is Keter, and the lowest one is Malchus. Malchus is a synonym for the Shekhinah. Now, there's a concept called Ein Sof. You heard what the concept means? What does Ein Sof mean? There's no, translated literally, it means there's no end. There's a more, I would say, professional word or a more sophisticated word for infinite. Ein Sof, infinite. That means that you just on and on and on. There's no end. No end to it. Ein Sof, infinite, infinite. I was just looking yesterday at Shabbos afternoon. There's a sefer called Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah, we're told, we learn, that a Malach learned the content of this sefer with Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu wrote it down. And this is what we call the Sefer Yetzirah. In this Sefer are the secrets of the creation. Secrets of the creation. So I was looking at it. You can get it at any Svarim store, any respectable Svarim store will have Sefer Yetzirah. Very difficult Sefer to learn. There are many, many commentaries on it because it's very condensed and the words are not clearly defined. Very difficult. Everyone's trying to define the words. What does it mean? So on and so forth. Very difficult. Very difficult. But anyway, in the Sefer Yetzirah, it talks about these 10 spheros. These were 10 spiritual constructs that existed before the physical world, way, way before the physical world. And he says, very interestingly enough, he says, there are 10, but all of these 10 are also Ein Sof.
They're all what?
Ein Sof, infinite. These 10 are infinite. You have all the spheres, Keser, Chochma, Bina, Chesed, Gvur, Teva. Malchus, the last one, also is infinite. What does it mean is infinite? That means it's not just one little thing. That means it's on a continuum. Shechina is something which is broad. Don't think of it as one little spiritual construct and there are 9 above it. No. Each one of those spheros, including the Shechina, is also infinite. So how now you should be able to answer your question, Rabbi Yaakov Meir. You asked if the Shechina is speaking and we say Shema Kol. Who are we speaking to? The Shekhinah is the one who's speaking. I thought I'm addressing God. But the Shekhinah is God. The Shekhinah is inside us. So who am I talking to?
It goes back.
What would you say is the answer now?
It goes back
No.
to הנפש השנית בישראל, היא חלק מאלוקה ממעל.
Connected to that too, of course. So you can say very easily, either the Shekhinah is speaking from its lowest levels to higher levels within the Shekhinah, or it's speaking to those levels of the other 9 above it. Very simple. The Shekhinah itself is helping us to speak, or it is the main speaker, and we are just going along for the ride, and it seems like we are the ones who are speaking. And if you ask anyone with any logic at all, any scientist, any doctor, he'll tell you, yes, you are speaking. You're opening your mouth, you're closing your mouth, you're moving your lips, and you decide when to do it and how to do it. So you're doing it all. And the Baal Shem Tov was not aware of that? Sure he was aware of that. He was aware of it 100%. But he's telling you the truth, which is not apparent. It's not apparent. You will never know it unless you're taught it. Unless you could be taught this. Like Avraham Avinu had to be taught, but with a malach who taught him the secrets of the creation. You have to be taught that. When Adam HaRishon was created, he was created at the age of, Chazal tells us, the age of 30. Whatever that means, 30 years old at that time. But he was created with complete understanding of the entire world. A better understanding than Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, lo kam b'Yisrael k'Moshe, there'll never be a person who had the insights, who had the nevuah level of Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody ever can come to that. I would say, in my humble opinion, Adam HaRishon, before the Chet of Eitz Hadas, had a greater, let's call it, grasp of the creation of Hashem. And the Midrashim say the Malachim wanted to serve Adam HaRishon like they serve God. They say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. They say Kedusha to Hashem. That's how big Adam HaRishon was. And he had to be taught. The knowledge had to be put into his mind. He was created. Where did he learn it? He had no one to learn from. He had a Rebbe. He had an Admor. He didn't go to yeshiva. Where did he know everything from? And he knew it all. Because Hashem put it into his mind. That was his Rebbe, Hashem. Just like Avraham Avinu was taught about the Sefer. So we are taught also. We're learning. We're very, very far away from all that. And the Baal Shem Tov says, you think that you're speaking? It's really the Shekhinah speaking. It looks like that. That's the brilliance of the creation. The brilliance of the creation is that everybody in the world, the entire world, thinks that they have free will. And I can prove it to you. Here, no one's telling me what to do. I lift my hand up. My free will lifted it up. I put it down. My free will put it down. Is anybody telling me what to do? Nobody. That's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Why is it so brilliant? Because Hashem, the truth of Hashem, what does Hashem mean? Hoya, Hove, V'yir. The true Hashem is, there is no time for Hashem. Everything is happening in the present. There is no such thing as past or future by Hashem. In other words, my hand going up or way down was part of the existence of the creation. That's the way the whole thing was created. That at one point in time, on King George in Chabad, at this time of the day, it was already programmed way, way beforehand that it's happening at the time that my hand goes up, my hand goes down. I have free will? Of course I have free will. Hashem is looking down and he says, hey, you child, you little baby, you don't know what's going on. You only see the surface. I planned it that way. I planned it that way. You had no choice. You had no choice whatsoever. Your hand had to go up and it had to go down. What do you mean that I have no choice? You see that I do have choice. It's so brilliant that it can't be convinced otherwise. It's brilliant. No one could make such a creation. Only Hashem can make such a creation. That both are happening at the same time. There is no free will, and yet you think that there 100% there is free will. And that's both going on at the same time.
So what is free will?
Free will is something that we live with in this world, and not only do we live with it, we get rewarded and we get punished because of our free will. If we make the wrong choices, we get punished. We get the right choices, we get rewarded.
But if God is He planned everything, how can we have? How do we choose?
Because I always give the example. You have a driver's license. In Eretz Israel, in the United States, you drive on the left side of the road, and the
Right side.
well, right. And the driver's seat is on the left of the car. You go to England, it's just the opposite. It's on the right side. On the right side. So a man went from Eretz Israel, and he's driving already 35 years. He's an experienced driver. Never got a knas, never got a ticket. Nothing. Goes to England, and he doesn't know from anything. What does he know about the rules in England? He knows a driver's a driver. Gets something into a car, and he's driving on the other side of the road according to what the English law is. You're supposed to drive on this side, not on this side. He gets pulled over by a policeman and says, let me see your license. Shows him his license. Don't you know how to drive? What, on the right side of the road? He says, but officer, this is the way I've been driving 35 years already. I never got a ticket, and everything's fine. Young man, that's where you come from over there. That's the way you drive. Over here, we drive differently. You hear the question? You hear the answer? It all depends where you are. The Rambam said in his Perush of this question, there's no answer. He said there's no answer. Lo machshavosai, machshavosechem, v'lo darchechem derachai. Your thoughts and your ways are not my thoughts and my ways. There's no way to answer. The Rambam tried. How do you understand such a thing? Free will, and yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the boss. He knows everything beforehand. The phrase itself of beforehand is already erroneous. There's no such thing as beforehand by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no way to understand it if you look at it from the human point of view. You cannot reconcile that I have no free will because Hashem knows. You cannot reconcile it. I do have free will. And that's the brilliance of it. Yes, Hashem says, you have free will. There's Gehenna, there's Gan Eden, and you're going to be punished or rewarded according to your free will here. But that's because you're driving in Israel. You're driving in the countries where the driver is on the left side. When you come up to my area, the rules are different. Over there, you have no free will. And you have to look from it from above in order to understand it. You cannot look from down here. If you look from down here trying to understand both at the same time, you have a conflict that you cannot reconcile. Impossible.
Yeah, I was fine with.
See,
I was fine with. Hashem knows everything that's going to happen, but we still have to make the decision in that point in time. You're saying it's all planned. That's a higher.
But that's only from that point of view. Up from there, we are judged according to what we make down here, and that's the set of rules for here. Your driver's license is good here, you're going to get reward or punishment according to where you drive here. That's the brilliance of it. Brilliance of it. Hashem knows before him anyway what you're going to do, but it doesn't make a difference.
Orchestrating is two different things. That's my question. Or maybe there is no.
As far as Hashem is concerned, there's no difference. It's all the same.
So God's knowledge is not our knowledge.
That's right.
It's the idea of Nora Anila.
Hmm?
It's the idea of Nora Anila.
What does that mean?
We think we know.
Yeah.
We make our decision.
Yeah.
And it goes according to our decision. In truth, has already been decided. This is Nora Anila.
Okay, but we are not allowed to live that way.
I know.
We have the ability. See, Hashem gave us a mind. A mind is something which is spiritual, right? In spirituality, you can go into that level of thinking, but you cannot live that way. The mind is something which is totally, totally spiritual, and intellectually you can go into that level of thinking, but you're not allowed to live that way. You have to live according to, as the Torah says, you have to choose right or wrong, and you get reward or punishment according to your choice. That's the way you have to live, no question about it. Where do we get to all this from? We get to all this from what the Baal Shem Tov says, the one who's really speaking. Now he's jumping for a moment to the mabat, to the point of view of Hashem. Hashem is the one who is giving you the ability to speak, and he is really the one who's speaking. And who is he speaking to? That's his business. Speaking to higher levels within the Shekhinah, to other levels above the Shekhinah. Doesn't matter. It's going to do what it has to do. And the brilliance of it is that we think that we're speaking.
So is that what you call that, the materiality?
Well, you're becoming more material that way. Okay, yeah, it could be. It's making it living in the material world. You certainly do feel like you're doing something. Absolutely. But Hashem is he's telling you the Baal Shem Tov, looking at it from Hashem's point of view, and he wants you to understand that. Now, I was just thinking this morning, when I was standing Shmona Esrei, I was thinking at 11 o'clock I have to be here. I want to tell them over how I felt when I was standing Shmona Esrei this morning, when I said this. I said, Hashem Messiah Tivtok, what did it do to me? It made me stand up straight.
Made you happy.
It made me be careful how I said the words. I don't want to be disrespectful. The Shekhinah is the one who's saying it. I don't want to disrespect the Shekhinah and just swallow the words and go through it. Over Shabbos, I would tell you, I almost fell off my seat. Over Shabbos, I davened Friday night in a Hasidic shtibel. Friday night. I was away for Shabbos. I went to another neighborhood. Then a Hasidic shtibel. Sitting in front of me was a Chassid with a big strymel and a Bekisher, Gartel. And he got up for Shmona Esrei. I had already davened Shmona Esrei because they were davening Mincha. I had to daven Mincha earlier, so they davened Mincha. The entire Shmona Esrei was less than a minute.
Yeah.
Less than a minute.
I'm telling you.
His Shmona Esrei, his
Marshall. I complain about it all the time. Nobody listens.
less than a minute.
I told you about overall keep trying.
And then the same thing happened for my life too.
He probably says every second word.
So I felt so bad for him. He's a Hasidic fellow, and he's sitting down after the Shemona, and he's sitting and learning his pages, his alonim, his svarim of learning. I said, I think I feel, why did Hashem send me here? Why did he send me here? Hashem sent me here to make a tikkun of some kind. After davening, I walked over to him and I said to him, you know, for many, many years, my Shemona Esrei took me like everybody else, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was. And then, about 10 years ago, I started learning about Shem Tov. And it changed my life. Changed my life. He's looking at me like, he didn't even know what I'm talking about. I said, the Baal Shem Tov has a sefer on the Chumash, and in Parshas Shemos, he has a whole section on tefillah. And I started to learn it. It changed my life completely. Changed my life completely. And he's looking at me, he's nodding on this. I said, I didn't want to give him musa. I could have said to him, how can you daven Shemona in less than a minute? You can't even say the words in less than a minute.
He said every slurred Maybe he said line.
Yeah, he stood up and sat down after a few seconds. I couldn't believe it. And there's a Chassidish fellow with a big strival.
That's what's important.
So I didn't want to give him any more. So I just told him what experience that I had in my life. So I started learning about Shem Tov, and it changed my life, and it helped me with my doctor. I told him that. Hopefully he'll sink in, and maybe one day he'll get it also. You just can't do it. Once you know what he just said here, that the Shekhinah is the one who's talking, you just cannot go ahead and just jump into Shemona Esrei and just finish the words and that's it, and say, oh, Shalom Amarav. You can't do it. Cannot do it. So we should have that now digested and realize that that's the truth of what's happening, looking at it from Hashem's point of view. The Baal Shem Tov over here is jumping for a moment. You are standing Shemona Esrei, but realize that there is another factor. It's not you who are really davening. It's the Shekhinah, which is the entire world is the Shekhinah. And it is concentrated in you, it's condensed in you, and it is helping you to say the words. The word help is not a good word. It is the one who is saying the words, and you are just going along with it. And it seems like you are doing it, but the truth of the matter is, it's the Shekhinah Medaberes. Okay, that's what he said. Now, what comes out of this is the next step. This is extremely, extremely important. Who decided that this should happen? Did we decide? Or as we're talking about, Hashem runs the world. He created the world. Did Hashem or I decide that the Shekhinah should be in me when I'm talking? Who made that happen? Obviously, the Balabas. He's the one who makes all the decisions. He's talking within us. That means that he wants to be close to us. He wants to be united with us. This is an extremely, extremely important point. It's not only in davening. It's not only in davening. What Hashem wants, this is Ratzon Hashem, is that we should be connected to Him at all times, especially when we're davening or learning. Especially when we're davening or learning. He wants that connection. If he didn't want the connection, he would not come into us and be the one who is a spokesman, being the Shekhinah Medaberes. That is a siman, that is something that he wants. It could not happen had he not wanted it. And we have to realize that he wants it all the time. He doesn't want it only in davening, but especially during the davening. Now, what we're worried about all the time is, in davening, what's a major problem that Baal Shem Tov discusses at length, is how when I am talking, I think that I'm talking to Hashem, how do extraneous thoughts get into my mind? How does it take my mind off what I'm saying? My mouth keeps on moving, my mind is someplace else altogether. How does that happen? How does that happen? Well, there's reasons for it. The Baal Shem Tov gives reasons for it. But there is something that we can do to help the situation. I'm passing out a sheet. This is not the first time we're passing out the sheet, but I think we did it a long time enough ago that we can get the sheet pulled out again. And I ask you, take the sheet home, put it someplace where you have it every single morning when you wake up and you get dressed and you wash your hands. Have this sheet nearby, and we'll just go over it once we get it. Everyone who gets it. Take one sheet.
Yes, you gave it to me.
A long time ago, right. But I'm sure by now it's Kedai for another edition. We have been taught that if we want something, besides making hishtadlut of our own, apart from making efforts to reach our goal, to achieve something, we should always ask Hashem to help us. We have to ask Hashem. Hashem, the way He created the world is He wants us to come to Him for every little thing. Everything which you might think is not so important, every little thing. When I go someplace and I drive in a car, I ask Hashem, help me find a good parking space. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a good parking space, you have to go around and around and around, and who knows where, how long it's going to take. Time is of the essence.
A funny story about that, but I don't want to talk about it.
If it's no get to the Indian,
Yeah.
by all means.
A guy is going to a businessman going for a business meeting worth millions of dollars. And he's driving, as you said, around and around. And he says, oh, Hashem, please help me. I must get there. Otherwise, I'll lose this business deal. So all of a sudden, he sees the car pulling out. And he decides he's going to, and he looks at Hashem. It's okay, Hashem, I found it myself.
Never. It's a sad joke. It's a sad joke. Yeah. All right. But I use it all the time. I ask Hashem, tell me find a parking space. And Baruch Hashem, I can't say that I answer it every time, but I've seen things happen that it seems like, the tefillah had some effect. Anyway, we always have this way of living that everything we try to do, we should not just rely on our own kaitos, our own abilities. We ask Hashem for siyata d'shmaya to help us in everything. The same thing applies at alakas kama v'kama to tefillah. You want Hashem to help you so that you're not going to be disturbed by all these foolish things that come into a person's mind when he's davening. So when you wake up in the morning, right after you wash the tilas yadayim, even before you make the bracha, look at this tefillah. It's such a beautiful tefillah. You say a tefillah to Hashem.
Before you wash or before you make the
Yeah, before the bracha.
So you make the soaking.
No, you wash,
You say this.
and you say this, and then you make the bracha. El Elohei Aruchos. You are the God of spirit. These spirits which are circulating in the world, these spirits come and they disturb us. They infiltrate our minds. They disturb us. You are the boss, controller of the spirits. Tamod lanu schus Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. Think of our forefathers, our ancestors. The schus, how they sacrificed their lives and devoted their entire lives to serve you. And their schus, lahatzil osanu, save us, v'yazarenu, and we're praying for our children too. Mikol pesha v'avo, from any kind of negligence or avera, v'hafro or disturbance. any disturbance, kedei l'kayim mitzvos tavasecha kedosha, b'li shum machshava zara. We're asking Hashem to help us in the schus of our avos, not only for us, but for our children and grandchildren, and all till the end of all the generations. That we should be able to serve you, Hashem, without extraneous thoughts. Purify our hearts so that we have no ulterior motives. No ego involved in what we're doing, which we're doing only for you. And within sincerity, amen. And then you make the bracha. The first bracha you make, also you wanted to make the bracha with concentration. And we need help. And this will serve you for the entire day. Every morning, you say this when you wake up, after you wash your hands, before you make the bracha. Actually, I think you could say it even before you wash your hands too, because you're not making any bracha. You are mentioning Hashem's name, so better, I guess it's better to wash your hands first. But before you make the bracha, and if you forgot to say it, you could say it after the bracha too. Nothing's going to happen if you say it a little bit late. But you want to make the first bracha also without disturbance. So you make this little tefillah, you keep it handy. You know, you'll say there at home, where you wash, where you get dressed, and so on and so forth. Keep this handy nearby. Because before you make the bracha, say this tefillah. And you're expressing, this is what Hashem wants. He wants you to ask Him for help. And if you ask Him for help, the likelihood is He will help you. And it'll go for the entire day. It'll help you also for the brachas, for Shemona Esrei, for everything you do during the day. You should do it without machshavas uzaros, and do it in sincerity, in be'emes, as it says over here. It's a very important thing to do, a simple thing to do. It takes only a half a minute, or maybe less. Okay. So we go back to the Baal Shem Tov now. Hashchina medebras hadiburim. Ukishiyelo, second line on page 150, second line. Ukishiyelo amana. You hear that? He says, when you have the belief, the trust in what I'm telling you, the Shekhinah is the one who's really speaking, although it looks and it feels like you are the one who's doing it, but He wants you to know the truth at the same time, even though you feel you have control, and you are the one who's deciding how to speak, how fast to speak, when to speak, but He's telling you, it's already planned. It's the Shekhinah doing it. But you don't go that way. You go with the way that you are right now speaking, and Hashem is helping you, so to speak. When you have this emunah that the Shekhinah is doing it, bevadai tipol olav ema v'yira. Oh, now you should have, if you really believe this and you really feel it, you should now be totally into awesomeness. Aim of the year. You're standing not only in front of the Shekhinah, but the Shekhinah is inside you. And therefore should make you stand up straight, to think straight, to do things right. Because you're standing with the Shekhinah, is the one who's talking, and you're addressing the Shekhinah, and at the same time He's also in you. So it should, Vada, he said, it has to happen. If you have that emunah, he says, it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, that means you're lacking in the emunah, you don't believe it. You have to have that belief. You have to have that belief. You have that belief, then will fall upon you this ema and yira, and you're not the same person you were 5 minutes ago. V'gam HaKadosh Baruch Hu kavayochol mitzamtzem es atzmo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is condensing Himself, constricting Himself, so to speak. V'shore etzlo. He's very close to you, nearby you. Kamo shene'emar, meitzitz min hafarakim. Now this Kadosh Baruch Hu, is that the same thing as the Shekhinah? Why do you use a different word? Why do you use a different word? Kadosh Baruch Hu is not the same thing as the Shekhinah. Kadosh Baruch Hu, even though it's very often used in common speech as a synonym to the Shekhinah, but in Chassidus, in Kabbalah, it's not the same thing as the Shekhinah. It's a higher level of spiritual existence, a higher level, referring to spheros which are above the Shekhinah. Kodesh Baruch Hu kavayocho mitzamtzim es atzmo v'shore etzlo, and he is nearby you, hovering about nearby you. The Shekhinah is inside you, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu is now hovering around you. Etzlo, kamo shene'amar, meitzitz min hacharakim. The Kodesh Baruch Hu is peeking out from the cracks, so to speak. Mehaosios, from the letters. Shehem heichalos, which are, let's call them containers.
Does mitzitz mean?
To peek out. To peek out. Meitzitz min hacharakim, mehaosios, shehem heichalos, v'hu holech meheichal heichal. You're going from one letter to the next letter, from one container to the next letter. What are those containers? Those containers are the osios, the letters. Now listen to this, Rabbi say. Telling you another chiddush. Another chiddush. It's so beautiful. Mama's amazing. I have a minhag many, many years. I come home Friday night, make kiddush, sit down to eat. After we have the motzi and some fish, I had a minhag. I say Eishes Chayil. What is Eishes Chayil? Eishes Chayil, a tribute to my wife. She cooked for the Shabbos, prepared the Shabbos.
You said before Kiddush.
Well, my minhag was during the meal, everyone's sitting around. My wife was all sitting at the table. Say Eishes Chayil or sing Eishes Chayil, and Eishes Chayil, she's the Eishes Chayil. Understood that it's a tribute to her. Not long ago, I had the sefer from the Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Baghdad, lived a couple hundred years back in Iraq, Baghdad, and I heard that Rabbi Chaim Ozer Grodzinski, who was the Rosh Gadol Hador in Vilna before World War II, said of the Ben Ish Chai, a Svardi. Imagine an Ashkenazi Litai, Rosh Yeshiva, Poisik Hador, at the level of, Rabbi Vati Yosef or of Moshe Feinstein, that level. Rabbi Chaim Ozer, he also had one of these photographic memories. He said the Ben Ish Chai Bismano was the Gadol Hador. For him to say that about a Svardi Rav is quite a statement. The Gadol Hador. Now I read a little bit about the Ben Ish Chai. We have no concept. Some of the things that I read about him, absolutely amazing. One of the things which was really amazing was Ben Ish Chai. He used to give drasha on Shabbos or the Big Yom Tovim, and a big arena or a hall, I don't know what you call it, a large place where thousands of people was to come to hear him. Now, hundreds of years back, they didn't have microphones. They didn't have microphones. And he gave this drasha, and thousands of people are listening, and everybody was able to hear every word. Can you imagine that? One person, he wasn't some kind of a tenor voice or something like that, where you have big chazan. He's a Rav. And he gave his drasha, and everyone heard it. The thousands of people listening. After he was nifter, his son took over the position, and his son gave the drasha too. Only the first couple of rows were able to hear him. That's it. Nobody else. How did that happen? Why we just learned? Shechina b'neberes b'toch v'rono. He had that schos with the Ben Ish Chai. He had that schos. The Shechina b'neberes b'toch v'rono, and there was no problem with the Shechina. No problem. Another thing I read about the Ben Ish Chai, which is very, very interesting. He had maidservants. He was the Rav HaRashi, and by the Sfardim they had shvachot, maidservants. He never allowed a girl to work for him who was 12 years old. Only up until 12 years old. Why? When 12 years old, she would be beginning to get a menstrual cycle, and he was knowing to eat chulin, regular food, b'taras HaKodesh. And Chalila V'chas, a girl who was 12 years old, who already had her cycle, would touch his food, he wouldn't eat it.
Food preparing.
Young girls or his wife cooking. His wife knew the halachas of Taras and Mishpacha. But the young girls who were serving and helping in the kitchen, once they became 12 years old, they were asked to find another place to work. He didn't want a girl who had her cycle touching the food that he ate. He was such, not only was there a big Talmud Chacham, he was a Kodesh for Torah. Regular food. He wasn't a Kohen, wasn't a Levi, a regular Yisrael. He was makbid that his food should be B'Taras HaKodesh. A girl who had a cycle could not touch his food. This is
His wife would touch the food.
but she knew Taras HaMishpacha. She knew Taras HaMishpacha. She would go to the mikveh. She knew the halachas. She knew.
So she wouldn't serve, but then she wouldn't serve him during her cycle.
Could be. Could very well be.
Have to be.
All right. Fine.
Also, when you're looking at the wall, the yeshiva behind you was funded by the Beli Shkai's Davening built at your feet. If you're looking at the hotel, I don't know, one of them right behind
Yeah.
was built by the Davening with the yeshiva.
Okay. Anyway, so I brought the Ben Ish Chai just to impress you a little about the Ben Ish Chai and what he said that changed my minhag. My minhag was to say Eish Chayil after the fish. After the fish. He said, the Ben Ish Chai, that the Eish Chayil is important to say before Kiddush. Why is it so important to say before? What's the difference? The wife of the house that makes a difference to her if it's before Kiddush or after Kiddush? Why does she care? She gets it said and she appreciates that I sing Eishos Chayil for her. What's about it to her? No, it's much more than that. Much more than that. The Eishos Chayil, every pasuk in the Eishos Chayil is another letter of the Aleph base. Right? Another letter of the Aleph base. What's the significance of that? Says the Ben Ish Chai, Shabbos is a time when there's a tremendous amount of bracha and shefa coming down, min hashamayim. Tremendous. Shabbos is makor ha-brachos. The entire week we have brachos, but Shabbos we have double or triple, tremendous amount of brachos. The brachos, how do they come down? The Baal Shem Tov says they go from mehechel lehechel. They go from one container to another container until they finally come down to us. What transfers the bracha and the shefa from Shamayim to us? You know what transfers the bracha? The Aleph base. The Aleph base is not just an alphabet so that you know how to read. The Aleph base, all the letters of the Aleph base have tremendous amount of kedusha. Tremendous amount of kedusha. They are the containers through which, the channels through which all the bracha comes down. And if you want the brachas to start coming down when you say the brachas of the Kiddush, you got to open up the channels first. And therefore you have to say Eishos Chayil before Kiddush.
Even if your wife's not home.
Of course. It's not only for her. For her you could say after Kiddush it would make a difference. But if you want the brachas of the Kiddush to come down in their full volume, say the Eishos Chayil first. And I'll tell you something more interesting. Let's think about our davening. How many places in davening do we have the Aleph base?
Hashem.
Okay, Ashrei. Everybody knows Ashrei, all right? What else? Besides Ashrei. That's in Psukei D'Zimra, Ashrei. In Birchas Kriya Shema, Kel Baruch Gadol Deyo, Heichinu Fa'al Zohar Chamba. Right? After Birchas Kriya Shema, you have a second time, correct? All right. Just remember afterwards. Let's take now Shabbos. Shabbos, we have an additional one in Psukei D'Zimra. Besides Ashrei, the David B'Shano Zoh is Tamim Lefnei Avimelech. In the Psukei D'Zimra of Shabbos, we have an extra one besides Ashrei, the David B'Shano, in Psukei D'Zimra itself. And then you have, again, in Birchas Kriya Shema, Kel Adon. Kel Adon calls them Baruch HaMavarach because God will. You have the entire Aleph base again. That's not part of davening. I know, but I don't know if maybe it is. Could be. I don't know. I don't know if that. Yeah, all right. But then in Birchas Kriyas Shema, you have Kel Adon. Kel Adon has the entire Aleph base. You're not finished. Where do you have it, Musaf? The Aleph base? It's a trick, a little bit of a tricky. In Shmon Esrei. Where do you have the Aleph base in Shmon Esrei? No. In Musaf. Tikanta Shabbos. It's the Aleph base in reverse order. In reverse order. So we have, in Shabbos, we have the Aleph base many more times than during the week. Why do we have that many more times during the week? Why? Oh, that's it. Because Shabbos, there's an extra shefa and bracha coming down. So you have to have more Aleph base. Amazing.
Where's shefa?
Flow. Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, they Masader the tefillah for us. They knew all these things. That's why they put it in. They disguised it with Pirkos. And look, David HaMelech, before Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, he wrote his Sefer Tehillim, and he has an entire parak, a Kufyu test, with all the letters of the alphabet. So you go to Cheder, you go to elementary school, whatever you want to call it, you learn Aleph base. Why? Because you have to know how to read. You have to know how to read. If you don't know the Aleph base, you can't learn how to read. It's the basis of the alphabet, right? You're reading words, you have to know. It's child play. It's child play. The Aleph base is the basis of everything. It brings down min hashamayim all of the koyach, as the Kodesh Baruch Hu once has said. He sends it through the Aleph base. Amazing. Those are the heichalos that Baal Shem Tov just mentioned over here. The heichalos. We're over the time already? Yeah.
He says Davening Tov.
And every heichal, correct. Every heichal, as you go in Shemayim, you get a judgment. Are you worthy of going to the next one? But these heichalot are also the tzidorot. Okay, we'll pick it up near Hashem next week. That's it for today.